Your kind disgusts me, another filthy criminal crawling out of that black skin. Officer Derek Hayes' words sliced through the still air of the parking lot as he drove 16-year-old Jamal Thompson's face into the rough asphalt. The boy's cheekbone cracked against the ground, his spine pinned beneath the officer's knee. Warm blood pooled beside his mouth. I paid for this, Jamal gasped. Sure you did, Hayes sneered. Lying's in your blood. The crumpled receipt fluttered away on the wind. Jamal's Stanford acceptance letter lay crushed beneath Hayes' boot. Around them 20 people stood frozen, phones raised, screens glowing. No one moved. Jamal's phone vibrated on the pavement, Dad calling, then everything shifted. Tires screamed. A black SUV skidded to a halt. Doors flew open. Footsteps, fast, urgent. Hayes looked up, the arrogance draining from his face. His hand released Jamal's neck. He stood. His skin went pale. Have you ever wondered what could make a cop look terrified? 45 minutes earlier, Jamal Thompson was simply a kid shopping for his sister's birthday. Brookside Plaza hummed with Sunday energy, families strolling, music floating from storefronts, sunlight warming the tiled floor. Inside Fashion Hub, Jamal held up a blue sweater, snapped a photo, and texted his mom, Sophia's going to love this, right? A message popped up from MT. Asterisk on my way, son. Be safe out there, asterisk. Jamal smiled. He grabbed the sweater, added a matching hat, and headed to the counter. Emily Carter, the young cashier, scanned the tags with a friendly grin. That'll be $47. He handed over his debit card. The reader beeped, approved. Emily slipped the printed receipt into the bag. Your sister's lucky. These just came in yesterday. She's turning 12. Big day, Jamal said, smiling. He took the bag and turned to leave, then an alarm shrieked. Not from Emily's store, but 3 shops down at the electronics retailer. The piercing tone cut through the plaza. Security guard Kevin Morales spoke urgently into his radio. We've got a theft at Gadget World. Male suspect fleeing east exit. Description, crackled dispatch. Morales squinted. Black male, late teens, dark sweater, backpack. That single, careless sentence, the kind that has ended lives before, echoed through the air. 50 feet away, Jamal browsed a window display. He wore a gray sweater. He carried a backpack. He had no idea that he matched the description. Morales spotted him and narrowed his eyes. I've got eyes on a possible suspect, he said into the radio, already moving. At that same moment, Jamal's phone buzzed again, another text from MT, asterisk ETA 15 minutes. Love you, asterisk. Jamal typed back, love you too, Dad. He never pressed send. Morales advanced, calling it in, making the worst assumption of his life. 2 blocks away, Officer Derek Hayes hit the siren and accelerated toward Brookside Plaza. Jamal picked up his shopping bag and headed for the exit, unaware of the storm racing toward him. He pushed through the glass doors into the parking lot, sunlight on his face, adjusting his backpack. His sister Sophia had texted, "Can't wait to see what you got me," he smiled, thumbs moving across the screen, then heard the voice. You. Stop right there. Jamal looked up. Officer Hayes was striding toward him, hand on his gun. Behind him, his partner Michaelchen followed a few steps behind. Me? Jamal asked. Don't move. Hands where I can see them. Heart pounding, Jamal raised both hands, phone in one, shopping bag in the other. Officer, I think there's been a mistake. I said don't move. Hayes grabbed Jamal's shoulder, spun him around. Empty your pockets now. I just bought, Jamal's voice shook as he obeyed. Wallet, keys, phone. Hayes snatched them, shoved Jamal against a parked car. The metal burned hot through his clothes. What's in the bag? A sweater and a hat. For my sister's birthday. I have the receipt right here. Hayes ripped the bag open, inspected the items like evidence, then tossed them to the ground. The receipt crumpled in his fist. Anyone can fake a receipt. Jamal stared, disbelief tightening his throat. No, that's real. The clerk can confirm it. Sure she can, Hayes said with icy sarcasm. He turned to Chen. Check his ID. Chen pulled Jamal's wallet, read softly, Jamal Thompson. 16. Lakeside High School. Honor roll sticker, he murmured. So? Hayes snapped. Honor students steal too. A crowd began to gather. Shoppers slowed, phones rising. 15, maybe 20 people recording. Jamal felt every lens pointed at him. I didn't steal anything, he pleaded. Please, just check the footage inside. Turn around, Hayes barked. Sir, if you just. I said turn around. Hayes yanked his arm, slammed his chest onto the car hood. The metal knocked the breath out of him. Hands behind your back. Jamal obeyed, shaking. This couldn't be real. Not for buying a birthday gift. His mother's words echoed in his head, always come home safe, baby. Hayes kicked Jamal's legs apart. Spread them wider. Officer, I haven't done anything wrong. Shut your mouth. The pat-down was rough, humiliating. Hands dragged down his sides, over his legs, along his waistband. Every motion sharp and unnecessary. Around him, the crowd kept growing, phones raised higher. Someone muttered, Jesus, is that really necessary? Hayes ignored them. He ripped the backpack off Jamal's shoulders and dumped it out. Books spilled onto the ground, a worn calculus textbook, a copy of The Souls of Black Folk, a folder marked Stanford Application Materials. Hayes picked up the folder and opened it. Inside was the letter, the one Jamal's mother had cried over. The dream he'd worked for. Stanford, huh? Hayes said loudly. What did you do, steal this too? A few in the crowd laughed, nervous, cruel laughter that made Jamal's stomach twist. That's mine, Jamal whispered. I earned that. Sure you did. Hayes tossed the folder aside, pages scattering across the asphalt like broken feathers. Jamal's future literally blowing away in the wind. Then Emily Carter burst out of the plaza, breathless, clutching her tablet. Officers! Wait, she shouted. I'm the cashier from Fashion Hub. I sold him that sweater 10 minutes ago. Hayes barely looked at her. Ma'am, step back. I have the record right here. Emily held up her iPad, screen glowing. Transaction at 11:27 a.m., debit card ending in 3948. Jamal Thompson. He was buying a gift for his sister. Officer Chen leaned closer. Hayes, maybe we should. We're following protocol, Hayes cut him off sharply. Ma'am, this is police business. Step back. But he didn't steal anything. I can show you the cameras. Emily's voice cracked, desperate. Step back. Hayes's hand moved toward his weapon. Emily froze, then retreated, trembling, tears forming. She didn't leave, though. She stayed, iPad clutched to her chest, shaking her head. Jamal caught her eyes. Thank you, for trying. She nodded, one tear sliding down her cheek. The radio on Hayes's shoulder crackled. Unit 43, what's your status? Suspect detained, Hayes replied. Requesting backup for transport. Be advised, dispatch answered, suspect may be armed. Jamal's blood ran cold. What? I'm not armed, he gasped. Hayes's hand moved back to his gun. Get on the ground. Now. I'm not armed. On the ground. The gun came out in a single motion. The crowd screamed. Chen's hand hovered over his own holster, but he didn't draw, his face tight with unease. Jamal dropped to his knees, hands raised high. Please, don't shoot. I'm not resisting. I don't have a weapon. Please. Face down. Hands behind your head. Jamal lowered himself slowly, cheek pressing into the blistering asphalt. Gravel bit into his skin. He laced his fingers behind his head, trying not to tremble. His mother's voice again in his mind, *, keep your hands visible. Say yes, sir. Come home safe, *. He was trying. God, he was trying. Hayes holstered his gun and dropped a knee hard into Jamal's back. All his weight crushed down. I can't breathe, Jamal gasped. Stop resisting. I'm not, I can't. Then stop talking. Hayes wrenched Jamal's arm backward. A loud pop. Pain exploded through his shoulder. Voices shouted from the crowd. He's a kid. Check the receipt. This is wrong. A woman whispered to her daughter, this is messed up. Still, not one person stepped forward. 20 cameras filmed. 0 people intervened. On the pavement beside his head, Jamal's phone lit up again, Dad calling. It rang and rang. No one answered. A second patrol car pulled up. Sergeant Robert Diaz stepped out, eyes sweeping the chaotic scene, Hayes kneeling on a bleeding teenager, papers and clothes scattered everywhere. What do we have? Hayes, still pressing Jamal down, said flatly, suspect matched the description from the electronics store theft. I detained him as he left the plaza. Diaz picked up a crumpled receipt from the ground, smoothed it out, and read the timestamp. This says purchase made 20 minutes ago. Could be forged, Hayes muttered. Forged? In 20 minutes? Diaz's eyebrow rose. He crouched beside Jamal. The boy's face was streaked with dirt and blood. What's your name, son? Jamal. Jamal Thompson, he whispered. I'm 16. I go to Lakeside High. Diaz picked up the student ID from the ground, on a roll, 4.0 GPA. He turned to Hayes. You pat him down? Yes, sir. Clean. Any contraband? School books. Papers. College stuff. Diaz straightened, looking from the crowd to the evidence to the clerk still standing nearby, trembling with her iPad. He hesitated. His expression flickered, conscience, calculation, conflict. Maybe this would end now. Bring him in for questioning, Diaz finally said. Better safe than sorry. The hope inside Jamal shattered. Across the street, a black SUV idled, tinted windows glinting in the sun. Inside, Agent Laura Simmons adjusted her earpiece. We have visual. Subject inside. Agent David Ramirez checked a tablet. Director Thompson's ETA, 8 minutes. He's seen the footage. All of it. Simmons exhaled. How bad? Bad. His kid got slammed face first into concrete. The officer? Hayes. 2 prior excessive force complaints, both dismissed. Not this time, Simmons muttered. What's the play? We wait for the director's signal. He wants to handle it personally first. If it escalates, we move. 10 agents standing by. Brookside police station smelled of burnt coffee and paper left too long in drawers. Officer Hayes walked Jamal through the glass doors, one hand gripping the teenager's arm. The handcuffs cut into Jamal's wrists, skin raw and red. Behind the front desk, Officer Nicole Harris looked up. Name? Jamal Thompson, Jamal said quietly. But I need to call my parents. Suspected retail theft, Brookside Plaza, Hayes interrupted. Run his record. Harris typed fast, frowned. No priors. Clean record. Hayes shrugged. First time for everything. I didn't steal anything, Jamal protested, voice rising. I showed you the receipt. Receipts can be forged. Witnesses can lie. So can cops, Jamal shot back. Hayes's face darkened. He took a step forward, but Sergeant Diaz appeared in the doorway. That's enough, Hayes. My office. Now. Chen, process him. Officer Chen unlocked the cuffs. Jamal's wrists burned as the metal came off. This will get sorted, Chen said softly, leading him down the hall to a small holding room. Gray walls. Metal table bolted to the floor. 2 chairs. A single camera blinking red in the corner. Sit tight, Chen said. You'll be out soon. When can I call my parents? Jamal asked. Soon. I promise. The door closed. The lock clicked. Jamal sat down slowly. His shoulder ached where Hayes had twisted it. His cheek throbbed where it met the asphalt. But pain wasn't the worst part. The humiliation was. The helplessness. He stared at the blinking red light. Is anyone watching this? I'm innocent. I didn't do anything wrong. Silence. The clock on the wall read 12:03. His dad got off work at 12:30. Every day, Jamal texted him when he was heading home. Now his phone was gone. His voice unheard. His body shaking. In Sergeant Diaz's office, Hayes stood at attention. This doesn't look good, Diaz said quietly. We responded to a call. The description matched. Diaz raised a brow. That description matches half the teenagers in this county. Hayes clenched his jaw. I made a judgment call. Your judgment call is all over social media. Diaz turned his monitor around. The screen glowed with posts, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, hundreds of angles, Hayes' knee on Jamal's back. Hashtags exploded, hashtag justice for Jamal. Over 10,000 tweets. Hayes' lips tightened. So what? We did our job. Did we? Diaz said coldly. The kid had a receipt. The clerk vouched for him. Security footage confirms his story. And you still brought him in. Better safe than sorry, Hayes muttered. Or better scared than accountable, Diaz replied, leaning forward. You drew your weapon on an unarmed teenager, Diaz continued. Dispatch said he might be armed. Based on what? A security guard who pointed at the first black kid he saw? Hayes' face reddened. I don't care what you appreciate, Diaz snapped. He stood, voice rising. You know what this looks like? The optics are fine. Fine? Diaz's tone cut through the air. I'm releasing the kid with an apology and hoping this doesn't turn into a lawsuit. Hayes scoffed. He'll be fine, Sarge. He's got Stanford. This will be his wild college story. Diaz's eyes hardened. Get out of my office, officer. Now. Hayes left without another word. Diaz sank into his chair, hands over his face. On the screen, Jamal's terrified expression froze mid-frame, his cheek pressed against asphalt, blood pooling near his mouth. The phone rang. Sergeant Diaz. He listened for a long moment. Then his expression changed. What? When? A pause. His tone shifted, sharp. How many? He stood slowly. Understood. I'll be right there. He hung up, staring at the door. FBI, for a shoplifting case. Moments later, the front doors burst open. 10 agents in Navy windbreakers swept in, the gold letters FBI gleaming under the fluorescent lights. Tactical gear. Weapons visible. Officer Harris stood frozen behind her desk. Can I help you? Agent Laura Simmons stepped forward, badge raised. Federal Bureau of Investigation. We're here for Jamal Thompson. On what grounds? Harris stammered. We don't need grounds. Where is he? Diaz rushed from his office. What's going on? Special Agent Simmons, FBI, she said firmly. This facility is under federal observation. Where is Jamal Alexander Thompson? He's a suspect in a shoplifting. He's not a suspect, Simmons interrupted. He's a minor under federal protection. You're holding him illegally. Hayes appeared from the hallway, scoffing. Federal protection for a shoplifter? Simmons turned, eyes cold as steel. You're Officer Hayes, correct? Yes, ma'am. We'll talk soon. For now, where's Jamal Thompson? Diaz swallowed hard. Holding room, North Corridor. Simmons nodded to her team. Ramirez. Stewart. Get him. The two agents moved instantly, boots echoing down the hall. This is local jurisdiction, Hayes tried again. It was, Simmons shot back. But when you detained a minor without cause and denied him counsel, it became federal. Your jurisdiction ended the second you crossed that line. Down the corridor, Agents Ramirez and Stewart reached the small holding room. They opened the door swiftly. Jamal Thompson? He looked up, eyes wide, body tense. Agent Ramirez showed his badge. Federal Bureau of Investigation. You're safe, son. Come with us. What's happening? Jamal whispered. You're not in trouble. We're getting you out of here. They guided him toward the lobby. The moment Jamal stepped into the open space, he froze. 10 FBI agents stood in formation. Sergeant Diaz pale and silent. Officer Hayes rigid, jaw clenched. Agent Simmons stepped forward. Jamal, are you hurt? He touched his cheek and shoulder. My face, my shoulder, but I'm okay. Did anyone deny you a phone call or a lawyer? Jamal's eyes shifted toward Hayes. Yes. Multiple times. Simmons wrote something down without breaking eye contact with the officer. Hayes started to speak. Wait. Simmons lifted a hand. Officer Hayes, I suggest you contact your union representative. Everything you say from this moment is recorded for federal investigation. Hayes's mouth closed. Then, the front doors opened again. Every head turned. A tall man stepped in, late 40s, 6 feet, dark suit, polished shoes. A federal badge gleamed at his belt. The agent straightened instinctively. Even Simmons stepped aside. The man's eye scanned the room and stopped on Jamal. Jamal blinked, confused. Something about the man's face, the jawline, the eyes, felt familiar. Dad? The word came out as a whisper. Gasps rippled through the lobby. The man crossed the space in 3 strides, his hands gripping Jamal's shoulders, eyes searching for injuries. Are you okay? Did they hurt you? Jamal couldn't speak. The hug came fast, fierce, protective. Then the man turned to the officers. His voice shifted to a calm, commanding. I'm Director Marcus Thompson, FBI Regional Bureau. He paused. And this is my son. For a heartbeat, no one spoke. Jamal's mind reeled, Director? His dad worked for the federal government, but he'd never said this. Marcus's hand stayed on Jamal's shoulder, grounding him. 33 minutes ago, Marcus began, my son's phone stopped moving. I have a tracking app, standard for agents' families. When I saw his location here, I pulled Plaza footage myself. He turned toward Hayes. I watched everything. The stop. The search. The force. The denial of rights. His voice was level, but fury simmered beneath each word. My son was buying a birthday gift. He had a receipt. A witness. He did nothing wrong. Yet he was thrown to the ground, handcuffed, humiliated. Diaz tried to interject. Director Thompson, we responded to a theft. Marcus's eyes cut through him. You racially profiled a teenager. He held up his tablet and swiped. Original dispatch, black male, late teens, dark sweater, backpack. Meaningless. The guard pointed at my son because he was the only black teenager in sight. He turned the screen. Here's the actual suspect. White male, early 20s, red sweater, no backpack. Left 6 minutes before my son was stopped. He looked back at Hayes. My son was 50 yards away from that theft, with a receipt, a witness, and evidence. You didn't care. You saw his skin and made your choice. Hayes's complexion drained of color. Agent Simmons, Marcus said, voice crisp. I want statements from every officer involved. Body cam footage, dispatch logs, Plaza recordings, preserved, all of it. Yes, sir, Simmons replied immediately. Marcus faced Hayes again. You put your knee on my son's back while he begged for air. You mocked his achievements. You denied him a phone call. You drew your weapon on an unarmed child holding a shopping bag. You violated his 4th, 5th, and 14th Amendment rights. He paused, letting the silence bite. Anything to say, Officer Hayes? Hayes's throat worked. I was following training. Marcus's tone sharpened. Your training taught you to racially profile minors? To ignore proof in plain sight? A black male in a sweater isn't a description, it's a stereotype. You used it to justify violence. He turned to the room. This incident is now a federal case. Officer Hayes, you are suspended. Badge and weapon. Now. Hayes looked toward Diaz. Diaz said nothing. Now, Marcus repeated. Hands trembling, Hayes removed his badge, placed it on the desk. Then his gun. The metallic click echoed through the room. Marcus's expression softened as he turned back to Jamal, the father returning. Let's go home, he murmured. Jamal nodded, silent, shaken. They moved toward the exit, Marcus's hand resting protectively on his son's shoulder. At the door, he paused and looked back. This doesn't end here, he said. There will be accountability, not just for one officer, but for the system that let this happen. Count on it. They walked out. The doors closed behind them. Inside, no one spoke. Hayes stared at his badge lying on the desk, realizing his career had just ended. Outside the station, Jamal stood beside his father's car, still trembling. Marcus kept his hand steady on his son's shoulder. You're safe now, he said quietly. We'll handle this. Dad, I didn't. I know, Marcus interrupted gently. You did nothing wrong. Jamal's eyes filled with tears. The pressure, the humiliation, the fear he'd buried finally broke through. Marcus pulled him close. Let it out, son. Jamal wept into his father's shoulder, every ounce of pain and rage pouring out. After a moment, Marcus stepped back, his tone firm again. Here's what happens next, he said. We make sure this means something, not just for you, but for every kid who doesn't have an FBI director for a father. What do you mean? Jamal asked. You'll see. Come on. They walked back toward the building. Jamal hesitated. I don't want to go in there again. You don't have to, Marcus said. Just watch. Inside, agents moved methodically, gathering statements, downloading body cam footage, photographing the evidence. The atmosphere had changed. The arrogance was gone, replaced with unease. Agent Simmons turned to Marcus. Status, all data secured. Cameras, dispatch, witnesses, everything logged. Good, Marcus said. Bring them in. 5 minutes later, the doors opened again. Emily Carter entered first, eyes still red but determined. Behind her, Mrs. Evelyn Ramirez, the woman from the crowd who'd spoken up. And last, security guard Kevin Morales, face pale with guilt. Marcus addressed the room. Thank you for coming. What happened today was wrong. What happens next depends on all of us. He turned to the monitor behind him. Watch this. The footage began to play. First, the theft at Gadget World, a white man, early 20s, red sweater, stuffing electronics into a bag. His face crystal clear. Then Morales appeared on screen, scanning the crowd, skipping past white teenagers, Asian teenagers, Hispanic teenagers, until his gaze landed on Jamal, the only black teenager in the frame. The footage shifted, body cams, bystanders' phones, overhead security angles. Every frame damning. Every second painful. When the video ended, the room was silent. Marcus turned to Morales. "Mr. Morales, you are not a police officer, so I can't suspend you. But I can do something else." He pulled out his phone, pressed a number, and placed the call on speaker. "Mr. Delgado," Marcus said evenly, "Director Marcus Thompson, FBI. I'm calling about your security contract at Brookside Plaza." "Director Thompson, yes, sir, I saw the news." "I'm so sorry." "Mr. Morales is here," Marcus continued. "He's the guard who identified my son based solely on skin color. He admitted he had no formal training, just instinct." A long silence followed. "I want mandatory training for every guard you employ," Marcus said. "Implicit bias, constitutional rights, and de-escalation, quarterly, not one time. The FBI will help you build it." "Yes, sir." "Absolutely." "And Morales?" Marcus added. "He'll be your first trainee. After he completes a restorative justice program, he can teach others what not to do." He looked directly at Morales. "Sound fair?" Morales nodded quickly, tears welling. "Yes, sir." "I'm so sorry." "Don't apologize to me," Marcus said. "Apologize to my son." Morales turned to Jamal, voice shaking. "I'm sorry. I didn't think. I just assumed." Jamal's tone was calm but sharp. "You assumed I was a criminal because of my skin?" "Yes," Morales whispered. "And I was wrong. Do you understand what your assumption caused?" Jamal asked. Morales nodded slowly. "I do now." "Then do better," Marcus said softly. "Learn better. Be better." He turned toward Emily Carter. "Miss Carter, you tried to help. You had evidence, and they dismissed you. Would you speak at a community meeting next week? Tell your story?" Emily straightened. "Yes. Absolutely." Marcus nodded, then faced Mrs. Ramirez. "You spoke up. You told the truth." She lifted her chin. "I've lived here 40 years. I've seen this happen again and again. I'm tired of staying silent." "Then don't," Marcus said. "Your voice matters." He looked toward the officers standing along the wall. Hayes stood silent, eyes down. Chen lingered beside him, uneasy. Diaz waited, tense. "Sergeant Diaz," Marcus began, "here's what happens now. The FBI will open a full investigation, non-negotiable. But real change starts today." Diaz nodded once. "What do you need?" "First," Marcus said, "Officer Hayes is suspended pending investigation." "Done," Diaz replied. "Second, mandatory training for every officer, implicit bias, constitutional rights, de-escalation." "We can do that." "Third, a community oversight board, real oversight, real disciplinary power. And I want Officer Chen on it." Chen blinked in surprise. "Me?" "You knew something was wrong today," Marcus said. "I saw it on your face, but you didn't stop it. This is your chance to do better." Chen swallowed hard. "Yes, sir. I want that." Marcus continued, his tone steady but firm. "Fourth, every officer in this department will wear a body camera. Footage will upload automatically and be accessible to the public within 72 hours. Diaz nodded. "We can make that happen." "And fifth," Marcus said, turning to Hayes, "you'll complete a restorative justice program. If you do the work, if you truly learn, you'll have a chance to turn this into something meaningful, work with youth programs, teach officers what not to do." Hayes looked up, eyes red and hollow. "Why would you give me that chance?" Marcus's voice softened, but his gaze stayed sharp. "Because my son deserves to live in a world where police do better. That starts with you choosing to be better." Hayes' throat tightened. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Marcus shook his head. Don't tell me. Tell him. Hayes turned to Jamal, voice trembling. I was wrong. I let assumptions guide me. I saw your skin instead of seeing you. I'm sorry. Jamal didn't speak right away. He looked at his father, then back at Hayes. I'm 16, Jamal said quietly. An honor student. Going to Stanford. I volunteer at the food bank. I coach Little League. I've never been in trouble, not once. But none of that mattered to you. You saw black and saw criminal. Hayes's face broke. So yeah, Jamal continued, you should be sorry. You should do the program. You should learn, because what you did to me, you've probably done to others. And they didn't have an FBI director for a father. Silence filled the room. Jamal looked around at the officers. My dad can make changes here. But you all have to choose to be different, every day, every stop, every interaction. Or nothing changes. Marcus rested a proud hand on his son's shoulder. My son is right, he said. This ends today. The excuses end. The assumptions end. The violations end. Because if they don't, I'll be back. And next time, it won't be a conversation. He turned to Simmons. File the formal complaint. Full investigation. Weekly updates. Yes, sir, she replied. Marcus faced Jamal again. Ready to go home? Jamal nodded. They began walking out, father and son side by side. At the doorway, Marcus called back, Officer Hayes. You've got a choice, let this destroy you or let it rebuild you. Choose wisely. The heavy doors closed behind them. Inside, silence lingered. Then Chin spoke softly, I'll do it, the oversight board, the training, all of it. I want to help fix this. Diaz nodded slowly. Then let's start. Hayes remained still, staring at his badge on the desk. For the first time in his career, he truly saw what he'd done, what he'd taken from that teenager, and what it had cost him. Brookside Community Hall overflowed with people 2 weeks later. More than 160 filled the seats, others lined the walls. Cameras rolled from the back of the room. On stage sat Marcus Thompson, Sergeant Diaz, Mayor Elizabeth Crawford, and Jamal. The mayor stepped forward. 2 weeks ago, something happened we can't ignore, she said. We have to face it. We have to fix it. She turned to Marcus. Director Thompson has been working with us on real change, not words, but action. Marcus rose. 2 weeks ago, my son was profiled, assaulted, and detained for nothing but the color of his skin. If I hadn't been who I am, this story would have ended differently. Justice shouldn't depend on who your father is, it should be a right for everyone. Applause erupted, thunderous and long. Here's what we're doing, Marcus continued. Mandatory bias and de-escalation training every quarter. A community oversight board with real authority. Body cameras for all officers. Footage released within 72 hours. A partnership between Brookside PD and the FBI to build a national model for accountability. He paused, scanning the crowd. These aren't suggestions. They're requirements. They start now. Sergeant Diaz stepped up next. On behalf of Brookside Police, I apologize to Jamal Thompson and to this community. We failed. We're supposed to protect everyone equally, and we didn't. Officer Hayes has resigned and joined a restorative program. He'll work with youth programs if he completes it. But that's just the beginning. The system failed. We're fixing it. He sat. The mayor turned to Jamal. Would you like to say anything? Jamal stood slowly, no notes in hand. The room went silent. I was just shopping, he said simply. But they saw a threat. He looked out at the crowd. Don't let that be your kid's story. Speak up, like Miss Carter did. That was it. 6 seconds. 19 words. But the hall erupted, a standing ovation, raw and powerful. Emily Carter wiped her eyes. Mrs. Ramirez raised a fist high. And somewhere in the back, Officer Chen stood with tears in his eyes. Afterward, he approached Jamal. "I want to apologize," Chen said. "I should have done more. I knew it was wrong, but I froze." Jamal looked at him. "You were uncomfortable. That's not the same as doing something." "I know," Chen said softly. "That's why I'm on the oversight board now, to make sure this never happens again." He extended a hand. Jamal looked at his father, who gave a small nod. Jamal shook Chen's hand. "Then let's work together." Chen's eyes glistened. "Thank you. I won't let you down." Marcus placed an arm around Jamal's shoulder. "I'm proud of you." "For what?" Jamal asked. "For shaking his hand," Marcus replied. "That took courage." 3 months later, Jamal stood in his Stanford dorm room, unpacking boxes. He pulled out the gray sweater, the one from that day. He'd kept it, washed, folded. His roommate smiled. "Nice sweater. Where'd you get it?" Jamal grinned faintly. "Long story. Remind me to tell you about the day I learned the difference between power and justice." Officer Hayes completed his program and began speaking at police academies about bias, his own story, his own shame, his own growth. Officer Chen chaired the oversight board. The new security protocol spread to 19 shopping centers nationwide. One moment of injustice had become a catalyst for change. So here's the question. Have you ever seen power crumble in the face of truth? Justice shouldn't depend on who your father is. It should be a right for everyone. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because change doesn't start with luck. It starts with us.